this is a very impactful technology. I want to make sure that everybody in the world can have access to it. Having this be in the hands of a few companies or few entities that dictate the rules around it, I think historically we've seen that it's not something that ever works out. Every stack of it needs to be open source.
Dax, thanks for being here at your house.
I thought we weren't doing intros. Oh, okay. Okay. I see what you're doing. My beautiful house, yes.
So you were at SF.
I hadn't been there since before COVID, so it was a while.
Oh, wow.
The city smells weird now.
Okay. It does?
Okay, do you not think there's a weird smell in San Francisco?
Because I was hanging out with you, or like the city in
No, but just like, and not a metaphor, it's not anything. I'm literally talking about the smell. I feel like the whole time I was there was just like, and I don't remember this from before.
Yeah.
I think it's a new thing. Maybe you're just used to the smell.
The smell is bad?
I think it's a bad smell, yeah.
Okay. What does it smell like?
I don't know, just like wet.
Were you in the rain?
No, it wasn't raining.
Okay.
I don't know. You don't think the city has a weird smell?
No, I think it smells great.
I brought this up to a few. You think it smells great?
Yeah, I love it.
I brought this up to a few people after, and they were all like, "Yeah, it smelled weird the whole time." And the people that were there thought it would smell weird.
Oh, huh. I've never thought that. Is that a thing people say?
Do you think New York smells?
Yes. I think it smells so terrible.
So you know what? Maybe it's just a thing. Because the whole time I was in New York, I was like, I don't know what anyone's talking about. It doesn't smell like anything here.
Yeah, we have
So,
different senses.
But that probably does mean there is a smell in San Francisco.
Yeah.
There isn't.
Maybe I'm just used to it because I live there now.
Yeah.
Yeah. How was the rest of your San Francisco time?
It was fun. We went there for a couple of days. I was telling you earlier, it feels like I stepped into a real life version of the internet because I only interact with tech on the internet. That's the only time I'm doing tech stuff. When I'm out here in Miami, nobody knows what I do. Nobody wants to know what I do. So I feel like I'm alone here. But then in San Francisco, it just feels like, oh, I'm like in Twitter, but like in real life.
Yeah.
To the point where like people like our team was walking around and then we walked by someone and they were like, oh, it's an OpenCode team. And I'm like, this is so weird. It's like, it feels like everyone that I know is in this small location. Because San Francisco's not big, right? It's like it's physically a small place.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just feels like I can like look out to the city and I'm like, oh, all the Twitter users, like this is where they live.
Would you ever move to San Francisco?
We've talked about it. I think ultimately it's a no. I think on the plus side of knowing a bunch of people there is, you know, I'm sure every day of the week I could hang out with someone. Like social life would probably be really great.
Yeah.
But I get enough of the tech stuff online. Like I don't think I want it in person. I also think it's too cold for me. San Francisco is literally too cold for me. I know it's supposed to be great weather.
Yeah.
California has great weather, but I like being in the heat. So
yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's nice out today though. It's so beautiful.
Miami's great most of the year. It's like 2 months in the summer where it's bad, like it's too hot. But most of the year it's like this.
Yeah. So you like having the separation from between like work and personal life or social life? Because I'm in San Francisco now and it's all blended together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I think there's this feeling, and this is true. Like if you are in San Francisco is like the heart of tech. There's a lot of benefits from being that close. Anything that's going on is going to happen there. You can go to these things. You can meet people. So that always feels like, oh, I should be able to take advantage of that. But it's this weird thing for me where I'm like, the whole point of tech is that it enables global scale. Like the internet enables you to launch stuff to millions of people from anywhere in the world. So I feel like to natively be thinking in that mindset, you really should be able to do that without physically being in a location, right? So there definitely is a benefit to being there. But I also like the fact that we're able to do something that's like deeply in the SF zone, like AI and coding, and none of us live in San Francisco. I'm really proud of that. Not saying that like one is better than the other. It's just I think it's fun for us to embrace the fact that in 2026 you can do everything on the internet and have like massive reach and reach massive people without having to physically be anywhere. Yeah.
That is an interesting point because now it seems like there's this new narrative of like you must be in San Francisco or you'll be left behind.
Yeah.
And I feel like OpenCode is a great example that obviously isn't true. Like you're doing so well not being in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's like I said, I can't deny there's not a benefit to being there. Like if you're starting a company and you have the option to be in San Francisco, it's probably what you should do. And obviously it's not like any other place in the world has OpenAI and Anthropic. But I was saying this the other day, there's so many AI products that I use that aren't based in San Francisco. Some of the biggest ones that are like getting a lot of users and like kind of in the headlines. A lot of them aren't in San Francisco. So yeah, I can't pretend like the numbers don't swing towards SF, but the counter examples are also pretty interesting to look at.
So you just wrote this article that exploded on X Twitter about Miami. Tell me about like the current Miami scene right now, tech scene.
Yeah, so I moved here 5 years ago, and that was during like peak crypto. So I wasn't part of any of that. I moved here because my wife's from here. We decided to come back down and settle closer to her family. But that was around the time where there was a wave of like, we're moving Silicon Valley to Miami, and like all these VCs came over, and like crypto was booming. And I was like, okay, this is not why I'm moving to Miami, but hey, if there's some tech stuff here, let me go check it out. And I would try going to the events, and it was like such a miserable experience. It would just be people that learned about NFTs the week before, that had already started a company doing something, and like they were giving a talk. Like they it just like was a lot. It was very fake and amateur. And I was like, okay, maybe this will change at some point. But I went to a few of those things, and at that point I was like, okay, I'm just going to do my own thing and not really engage. And then as you would expect, that like wave died down. A bunch of the people that moved here went back. A bunch of VCs that came here went back, and nothing like super lasting or nothing big came out of it. And I'm starting to see that again a little bit because of some of the taxes that are being proposed in California and New York. A bunch of people are moving down to Miami and Florida again, and there's this other narrative of, oh, we're gonna make Miami tech a thing, but it's probably going to go the same way. It's just going to be like these things where everyone's kind of pretending to do stuff. I think it doesn't have to be that way. What I wrote in my article was it's actually very simple. Like if we really want to make Miami tech an actual thing, it's definitely possible. We don't need like 1,000 companies here. We just need like 5 great founders here, and like start small and like build. You have to build like in the beginning of anything like this, you have to do it with people that don't necessarily even need it. I think right now, a lot of the events are trying to cater towards people that are earlier in their career or people trying to get something out of it. And we want to be able to do that eventually. But when we don't have anything, we usually can't serve that audience well. So, yeah, I think there's some great founders that I know here. We're all very focused on our businesses, so we don't have time to do this community thing. But someone is particularly motivated, I think they can make it happen. It just can't look like copying San Francisco, because San Francisco is like much later stage in that whole process.
Yeah, I know that was one of your tips. Don't copy San Francisco.
Yeah.
What else can be done besides not copying San Francisco?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think another thing I said is just being really honest with ourselves. I think another thing that we try with every single one of these waves, there's way too much fake it till you make it. I like fake it till you make it. I like that concept, and you have to do it. But it's done in a way where it's so obvious to everyone that you're faking, where we'll have like one little thing that like is kind of interesting, and everyone will blow it up like it's the biggest thing ever, or like, told you guys, like Miami Tech is definitely a thing, and everyone is just looking at it being like, we're actually just broadcasting that's not a thing, because we're trying so hard to get people to believe it. So yeah, these are just like little like marketing / PR / perception things, but I do think it is necessary to get those things right for any of that for the perception to actually change. We have plenty of retired billionaire. Retired is an exaggeration, but people that are billionaires that have built their company, and then that are moving here for like the later part of their life. That doesn't really mean much. Like, of course, there's tons of software engineers that are here, but every company in the world hires software engineers. It doesn't matter what field you're in. If you're an oil company, you hire software engineers. If you're a marketing company, you hire software engineers. For a place to actually be considered, oh, there's tech there, it means that there's companies and people there that are influencing the rest of the space. Miami Cloud does not have that at all. The way we build software, who we look at to learn how to do it, who influences us, it's all still coming from San Francisco. And we can't claim anything is happening here until that changes at least a little.
Yeah. What were some of the responses on Twitter? I feel like it was a much bigger debate than I would think.
It's funny because I wrote it thinking like, oh, no one will care, because my audience is like, my audience on X is like the whole world. I'm like, there's some people in Miami that follow me. I'm like writing it for like my Miami community, but it like went much broader than that. I think the two responses were, there's a bunch of people being like, yeah, Miami sucks, it's never gonna happen. Which is like kind of a not related point. Like I was saying, I was agreeing, like it hasn't happened yet, and here's some things that we could do to maybe make it a little bit more of a thing. There are a few responses saying, no, it is a thing, it's already working, kind of refuting that, which makes sense. I get why people feel that way. And there was a funny one where there were a few people that were like, yeah, I tried moving to Miami and I had like a horrible experience and I left. And then there's like a bunch of arguments that were happening there. But again, like I don't like care. Pretty much, I don't care about all three of those responses. I just wrote it for the people that are trying to do stuff here.
Yeah.
If you're gonna spend time and energy on it, here's some guidelines to help you kind of get the most out of it. But yeah, I mean, I might be wrong, but that's kind of how I saw things.
Yeah. For someone who's listening and they're maybe thinking of moving to Miami, like tell me some of the benefits.
Okay, so
especially moving from San Francisco to Miami.
Yeah, I'll explain why I like it here. Me and Liz like kind of went through this yesterday. That's actually why I wrote the article. Like me and her had a conversation about this whole dynamic, and she like pointed out a few things. So it's what I like about Miami is that it is weird. You don't think about it in this way because everyone thinks Miami, South Beach, clubs, nightlife, but it's extremely family friendly. Everyone I know here has kids. The neighborhood I live in, super safe. I have a house with a yard. I can walk to the downtown, get food, tons of kids everywhere. It's for people that are like not in that super early stage in their life, but like kind of maybe in their 30s, like settling down. And for me, that's the stage of life that I'm in. That's a part of the reason why SF doesn't really appeal to me. Like, of course, I know there's people with kids and it's probably great for kids in its own way, but there's just a lot of young, grindy mentality there. There's nothing wrong with that. I think working hard is important, but yeah, if you're at a certain stage in your life and you want to kind of be comfortable in these other things that you need to worry about, yeah, I think it's a great place to be. Obviously, taxes are a huge thing. That's like, if you are a founder and you're looking at a potentially big outcome, it's pretty crazy what a difference it makes living somewhere like this versus somewhere that is like more aggressive tax wise. I don't think that's like a primary motivator. I don't think you should live your life based on where you get taxed the least. I think it's a kind of dumb way to live, but that's a benefit. And then for me, I just like the weather. Like I like the weather. A lot of people hate it. That was another response. A lot of people were like, Miami Tech will never happen. It's too hot. Like, what do you mean it's too hot?
Wait, it's not that hot.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great right now. But also, like, you can't work when it's too hot. That's the other thing. This is another thing that I hate. Every single time people talk about where's the best place to build a company, they're always like, you can't do it here. There's like too much fun stuff everywhere. Or, like, the weather is. It's like none of these things matter when you're building a company. I'm not like, oh, I couldn't work hard enough because I just had to go to the club. Like, it's just like not a thing that happens at all. I spend most of my time in my house walking around my neighborhood. I think I work as many hours as anyone anywhere else, but it's like not that whether your company is successful or not. It's like these things aren't that relevant.
Yeah, it does seem funny that I saw this online where people are like, "There's too many fun things to do in Miami. I wouldn't get work done." It's like, how weak is your willpower that you're just like you have to be in San Francisco because if there's some fun things to do in Miami, you wouldn't be able to work.
But I also don't understand that because what I was saying earlier was if I moved to San Francisco, every single day of the week, there's an event I can go to hang out with people that I know. That to me is like 1,000 times harder to say no to than like the vague notion of going to a club. Like, I don't know. What do people think? Why do people think Miami's so fun? Like,
yeah,
the beach, I guess?
True.
You guys have beaches too.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Good weather right now.
Yeah. And in San Francisco, and whenever people talk about this, I'm like, so are you saying San Francisco is extremely like unpleasant to be in? Like what? It can't be that. I'm sure it's fun to be in San Francisco too, right?
It's quite fun.
Yeah.
I think it is actually kind of hard to focus in San Francisco.
Yeah.
There's always some event or something happening. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's again, like when you're starting a company, your goal is to find product market fit.
Yeah.
Which is really, really hard and is like so binary. None of these like little optimizations you make determine whether you find that or not. Like nothing's going to save you from finding it. Your company won't be successful unless you find it. The fact that you are like not distracted in a weirdly specific way doesn't really change that outcome at all. Yeah.
I want to hear more about like why you decided to launch OpenCode because I remember you kind of talking to me about it before it launched, and then it's been incredible just seeing how well it's done.
Yeah. You know what it felt like? It really felt like By the way, you know what's funny? Our company, like our legal entity, is 16 years old, which people always laugh at when they hear that, because there's like no one's ever heard of that. Like no one's heard of a company that just has kept the same investors in the same company, like just trying it.
How did this happen?
Yeah, I mean, like, so I became so I wasn't one of the original founders. I became a co-founder later. So I joined 5 years ago. But the company's been around for 16 years, and it's just been this like long, very long slog of like taking swings, and every swing like kind of works better than your previous swing, but not as good, but not good enough to actually be the thing. And just kind of like infinite patience on continue to keep trying, finding ways to stay alive. So when we saw Claude Code come out, that was the first time anyone on our team really adopted AI tooling. Like we tried all the stuff that was coming out before then. We tried Cursor, nothing stuck. We didn't really like any of it, and we were kind of unsure about AI coding in general. But Claude Code came out, and we were like, "Oh, this is like we get it. This helped us get it." It really stuck. Like it's the first tool that our team adopted, and we were like, "Okay, now that we understand this space, is there something we can do given our experience?" So Cloud Code is obviously very tied to Anthropic, is closed source. Our expertise is doing open source, and also doing stuff with like has a long tail, how we refer to it. But and long tail in this case means supporting every single LLM, supporting every single inference provider. It's like a super difficult, tedious task, something that open source does really well. So weirdly, we're kind of looking at Cloud Code being, we really like this. There's another form of product that can exist that we felt like we were so uniquely positioned to do, because we've been doing open source for a while. We knew how to bootstrap an open source community overnight. It really felt like very soon after we started working at it, it really felt like, oh, this is the thing we were meant to do. There's really nobody else out there that has a better shot of taking a swing like this. And it's like it's so rare to find yourself in that situation. And again, it took 16 years to find it.
Yeah. So I want to talk more about OpenCode, and specifically, like, why did you decide to make it open source? You talked a little bit about your expertise, but I want to talk more about that.
Yeah. So I think there's like, there's a few different reasons. So the first one is mentioned, for a coding agent that can work with anything, you need just a ton of help. You can't in-house a team that can actually build this, because every single week there's an issue like, hey, in Azure, in the Australian data center, they actually require this extra parameter to be set. Otherwise, LLM prompt caching doesn't work properly. That is not a situation that our team, our very small team, is going to find, be able to debug, reproduce, and fix. That is the type of thing that a contributor will find, reproduce, and fix. Someone that's actually using OpenCode in that environment. So to build something that can kind of like get into every little crevice of the world, it almost always has to be open source, so you can kind of get the help from the community for those things. That's one reason. The second reason, this is kind of a first principle for me, I don't believe that the tools we use to build software remain closed source long term. I think there's plenty of room for proprietary options. We have like a lot of history of that, right? We have proprietary editors. JetBrains is massively popular. People love JetBrains. They make a great product. I don't think it's open source. I think you can pay for it. And there's a great market, massive company that's serving that. But 70% of the market is owned by open source editors. So if you look at every component of tech, databases used to be proprietary, now mostly open source. Still proprietary options, but mostly open source. Every single tool you run locally on your computer to do dev work, the default is an open source option. So when it came to coding agents, and if we're saying that, the future of software development involves coding agents, the bulk of that should be an open source option. So I felt like a really good position to have. And we're looking around and we're like, why is no one taking this position yet? There's so many coding agent companies that are doing this, but nobody's taking this like obviously valuable real estate. So we just kind of like stepped in there. And the first couple of months, we were like, the only thing we need to make sure is we're identified as the open source option. And that's kind of all we were focused on. So we can kind of claim that territory.
Yeah. So you were saying historically, most dev tools end up open source.
Yeah.
Like the default option. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. And I think people, especially people that are a bit younger, maybe don't even remember this. But when I first started in tech, I was on a Microsoft stack. I built using .NET. And these are things that aren't open source, or like I say, weren't. And you have to pay for them. Like you have to pay for your editor. You have to pay for a license to deploy these things. And a lot of the market used them. That was like a huge thing. And it was not uncommon for someone to start programming to learn on these proprietary things. If you go back even before then, this is, people probably would find this crazy, but compilers used to be proprietary. You had to pay for a thing to compile your code, or the proprietary compilers. Database is another example. You know, there's a time where if you wanted to build a product into a database, you had to pay Oracle. That was the default option. What happens in these cases are, that's how it starts, because you need a commercial effort to even conceptualize these concepts and build them. But eventually, the customers of these products end up being massively successful, like way more successful than a company that makes a database. So if you think about Oracle, for example, you know, they made the thing to store data in. Everyone needs that. Amazon needed that. Facebook needed that. So, you know, these companies became so massive, so much bigger than a company making a database, that they're looking at their bill being like, why are we licensing like millions and millions and millions of dollars to this other company? We're so big that we can afford to just do our own thing just to get out of the situation. So eventually there's incentive for open source efforts to get funded. And if you look at databases, kind of the history of most of them, you look at a lot of these like open source tools, that's like roughly the history of them. Eventually, the company making the proprietary thing just can't outcompete the incentive to provide a free option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing about OpenCode being open source is that anyone can kind of jump in and contribute.
Yeah.
So for someone who's just finding out about OpenCode, because so many people are learning more and more about it every day, it seems like what is your advice for someone who wants to jump in and get involved?
Don't contribute. Well, it's funny because I just talked all this stuff about how important our positioning is around like being able to get contributions.
Yeah.
That was it's funny, we're part of the problem. That was that was before the situation where everyone had access to coding agents and could just prompt anything. So us and every open source project is now dealing with tons of PRs being open, like probably every couple of minutes. I think we probably get a new PR open every couple of minutes to its OpenCode repo.
Wow.
And it's not very thorough. It's always people that run to an issue, prompt an answer, and the LM tells them it's fixed. They maybe don't even run it. They just open the PR, or the LM opens the PR on their behalf. So we're all like kind of underwater trying to deal with this. So if you do want to be a contributor, if you do want to improve OpenCode, please don't just prompt and send. I'm begging you, not just me, that's everyone that's in the open source community, like managing open source projects. So many of them have shut down to external contributors now, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah.
That said, despite how crazy it is, there will always be people that find a way to stand up like through the noise.
Yeah.
We still have fantastic contributors. We still have people that kind of can see, they kind of pay attention to what our team is doing, where we're spending our time. They kind of see the direction we're going in, and they just figure out ways to be useful, right? Like the thing with open source is you're creating work for yourself. We're not going to product manage for you. We're not going to tell you like, here's what you need to do. You kind of have to pay attention and find a way to deliver something useful for us. And people continue to do that. Like I said, a few PRs open every minute. But every couple of weeks, we come across a really, really great contributor. And oftentimes we end up hiring them. I would say probably every single person that we've hired on a team that I didn't know already from previous work has been through our community. So yeah, people find a way to stand out, but it's harder and harder given how much noise there is.
So your first tip for anyone who wants to get involved with OpenCode, don't contribute.
Yeah. You know what the other messed up thing is? Sometimes they contribute using Claude code. And I'm like, why are you, this is like an insult. This is like an insult to injury, you know? You can give us a slot PR and then you're not going to even do it with our tool. Like I can see this stupid
Hilarious.
whoever and Claude. Like,
Claude commit.
yeah, and I'm just like, man, I think they're doing this just to hurt us. There's a period of time where people on our team were kind of convinced that our competitors were like sending people to like open PRs to like waste our time. Because yeah, we've gone through a phase where we were a bit more liberal with merging things, and
Yeah.
there was constantly break stuff. So
Yeah.
we had to become a lot more conservative. And people get so mad at us. They're like, oh, you didn't merge my PR. It took you guys 3 months to merge a very basic PR, but I think people don't really understand how difficult it is, especially against serving millions of people. Any small thing that breaks affects so many people that we should be super careful. Yeah.
You talked a little bit about Claude and Anthropic, and you've talked before about how Anthropic has maybe different values than OpenCode that are maybe in conflict. Can you talk a bit more about this?
Yeah, I think the thing that a lot of people think, they think that I this is so funny because there's another aspect of the internet. I often come across comments that are summarizing what they think are my views on things. And people think that I like have this crazy extreme view on Anthropic. I think I have a disagreement with them, but I also kind of can respect the place they're coming from. I think they're looking at their work as we're working on something that is very impactful, which is true. And it's going to be, there's potential for misuse for it. There's potential for large negative impact because AI gets developed. And they're very concerned about safety. And their point of view is, okay, given that we feel that way, we need to be very aggressive about how you can use these models, who has access to them. Anyone that is doing any slightly different than what Anthropic strictly wants you to do, they're going to clamp down on. And I'm not saying that's coming from a malicious or shameful place. I think it's coming from a genuine place of we're worried and we're kind of scared about this thing. I think what's in conflict for me is I have values that I think can also be respected, which is this is a very impactful technology. I want to make sure that everybody in the world can have access to it. It needs to be in the hands of as many people as possible. It needs to be in the hands of people that have conflicts with each other. It needs to be in the hands of companies that are flooding each other, because that to me is the only way to guarantee something stable long term. I think almost all stability comes from entities that are like locked in, like they're kind of aggressively locked against each other, and that kind of provides the stability. Having this be in the hands of a few companies or a few entities that dictate the rules around it, I think historically we've seen that it's not something that ever works out.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are. I don't care how big of a person you are. When you have that much power and capability, it always corrupts. It's like every single dictator that ever was looked down historically as a bad person initially had thoughts like this of like maybe they were even well intentioned. Maybe they thought that I could be the one that uses power for good. And I don't think that ever really works out. So for me, it's totally in conflict with the safety goal, because I'm willing to accept the fact that I'm going to help LLMs get into the hands of people that want to do bad things. And they're going to probably do bad things with them. I'm accepting that it's a cost we're going to pay, because I think the alternative is actually worse. And so I can respect Anthropic's position.
Yeah.
I bet if they heard me talk about it in this way, they probably respect my position too. It's actually incompatible. You can't actually have both things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this a little more, because there's a difference between open source AI is like a general term, and then open weight models and things like that.
Yeah.
So you believe that absolutely like the dev tools should be open source.
Yeah.
For all the reasons you just said.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's talk about like open weight models, because I know that that's a big debate. Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think every stack of it needs to be open source. If this is a thing people use to do work, produce software, whatever, having that be centrally controlled, any aspect of it, is not great. It's okay for there to be proprietary options. It's great that there's proprietary models that are maybe technically the best. It's great there's proprietary tooling around it, but it can't be a world where it's just only that. We need to also have the free version. But when I say free, I don't mean like cost-wise. I mean just like freely accessible. So yeah, I strongly believe in open weight models as well. I think there needs to be, not needs to be, I just think there is just natural incentive in the world to fund open source models, and they'll kind of continue to exist whether people want them or not. Yeah.
Do you feel like there are natural incentives? I feel like it's just so hard, because obviously there's not a great plan or way to monetize open weight models, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think a lot of people focus on morality when they talk about open source. I don't like to focus on that. I mean, to be fair, I'll give credit to the morality argument. There's, I think, a good moral reason to make technology that is freely accessible. But that's never enough to make sure it exists and make sure it like continues to be sustainable. It has to be like real structural reasons for these things to exist. So from my point of view, the reason open weight models will exist is because a world where there's just two companies that you buy models from is not a world that many large companies with lots of money and power want. And countries too, right? Like there's adversarial countries that can't use OpenAI or Anthropic. They're going to do their own thing. There's very large companies in the US that are that don't want to be spending all of their money through like a single vendor, right? There are inference companies like Baseten that need open source models to exist for their business to selling inference. So I think there's a lot of, just like with any other tech, it's very hard for the pure commercial options to like prevent open source from popping up. So generally, I think that's true. I think there's some nuances with open source, with LLMs and complicate it. Obviously, the monetary like investment to produce these things is really large.
Yeah.
But also the access to the hardware to produce these things is very large.
Yeah.
The access is very limited. So yeah, the big US AI companies plus like the big tech companies are vacuuming up all GPU capacity. They're kind of like spending billions and billions of dollars. The amount of resources being like available for open source efforts, that might be a thing that's a limiter. So that is something I'm concerned about. But I think long term there's always an incentive to make it exist. I think when it happens, the order it happens in, how long it takes, that's up for question.
Yeah, I'm concerned about this too, because I've kind of heard this, right, the argument of open weights and how they can democratize AI, give everyone access, but then it's like who owns like the compute power is actually who really might be holding the power of AI, right? Not just the weights, but actually who's going to be having all of these data centers.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting part too, is obviously the hardware you need to train these models, and that's, you can't have an open source model unless someone makes that investment. The inference side, I think, is actually the fun part, because it really showcases why open source is very good. When someone produces an open source model, anyone can host it. There can be like 100 companies competing to host that model. You're not forced to buy it from any single person. You need that to exist to drive costs down. Inference costs are crazy. The margins on doing inference are also really crazy. Like OpenAI and Anthropic make a lot of margin when they sell you a token. For that to ever go down, there needs to be like this rich ecosystem of companies competing against each other. So yeah, there's like again, even here, because the GPUs are so limited, hardware is so limited, it might be possible in the short term, these smaller inference players struggle. I hope that's not the case. We depend on them a lot. They need to exist and thrive and compete with each other for prices to go down. And price going down is very important.
So they would struggle because of that competition you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I shared this thing the other day where like Google, Amazon, all the big hyperscalers, these are companies that like no company in the world makes as much money as them. Like these companies have so much cash that they can direct to anything. They're directing all of it to buying and setting up inference infrastructure. So it's very hard. It's like, yeah, you can go raise, like if you're a very impressive company, raising $1 billion is a crazy number to raise. These companies have tens and tens of billions of dollars to spend every year, so it's very hard to try to get in there and do inference at the same scale.
Yeah, I want to talk more about this tweet. I saw hundreds of people replying to this. Can you explain a little bit about like what's going on in this tweet? Like quick refresher.
Yeah, so basically we've been hearing from our partners, different people we work with, just people we know in the industry, that there is a massive crunch on not just GPUs, but like the whole stack of stuff that is needed to deploy inference capability. Everything from like the physical hardware to the labor to deploy it. There's a crunch, and because it's one of these things where it kind of manifests itself. Now everyone's like freaked out. Everyone's hoarding. Everyone's trying to get as much as they can, which makes the situation even worse. So we're hearing about this, and we're like trying to dig into it. Is it overblown? Is it real? Every single person we talk to is in this hoarding mode. And they're like, it's probably good to secure capacity because we don't even know if it's going to be available in 6 months. So we're starting looking more into it, because as a business, how do we prepare? If token prices double because of this, that's not a good thing for us, not a good thing for our users. What can we do to get ahead of that? And in that process, we kind of came across just details on how much money these big tech companies are spending on all this. I think there's an estimate that debt-wise is probably going to be 1.5 trillion borrowed to invest in building out this infrastructure over the next, 5 years, whatever it is. It's getting to the point where like, yeah, the GPUs are scarce, but it's even hard to get money, right? If you're an inference provider and you want to do a build out, you might even have a customer. You might have a customer saying, I want to give you guys $100 million. You need to borrow money to go do that build out. It's even getting hard to borrow that money, even saying you have a customer. So yeah, everything is like really I never seen anything like this in my career. Like this is a really unique thing. So I'm going to do it for the first time.
So how does a business prepare if token cost is going to double in so-and-so months?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying they will. I'm not saying that maybe they'll just stay flat. Maybe they won't go down like we want them to. Maybe they'll go up. I don't know, to be honest. We're trying to figure that out right now. I think we're trying to like overbuy currently. So we're trying to build up more capacity than we strictly need. So we can scale to whatever we need 6 months down the road.
Okay.
I'm hoping this might not be true, but the other thing that I said was I have seen shortages in my lifetime, never in our industry. They kind of all go this way where if you remember, like during COVID, everyone started hoarding toilet paper and like just stuff for your like just paper towels and stuff.
Yeah.
And there was this period of time where it felt like, oh, we have a crazy shortage of all this stuff. And I feel like it was going to be bad. But then all of a sudden, things kicked into gear and we had like an oversupply of all that stuff because, you know, it wasn't actually used as much as we expected. So typically, shortages are followed by gluts. It's like a well-studied phenomenon that we can look at historically. It happened just because the whole world mobilizes to take advantage of serving the shortage. That said, producing paper towels or producing wheat, it's a lot simpler than producing a GPU, which is like very complex, many different countries involved, many different resources involved, politics involved. So I don't know if it'll have that same exact outcome, but I'm hoping it does. But yeah, it might be different.
Yeah. This leads into something else I'm really curious about. I feel like as a founder, you kind of have to make bets on where things are going.
Yeah.
But how do you do that when things are moving this fast?
Yeah, I think for a lot of, I mean, this GPU thing aside, I think generally when I find that, I complain about this all the time. I open my Twitter feed, every single post, prediction. Everyone's just predicting 6 months down the road, 1 month down the road. It's going to be like this, it's going to be like that, it's going to be like that. But, and I get why people feel that way because we're in a phase of great change. So you are trying to really like see if you can think many, many months out. It is so hard to do a prediction because typically a good prediction involves getting not just one assumption right. It's like stacking six assumptions correctly on top of each other and having each one of them be right at the right time. So most of the predictions you see are like wildly wrong because it's just innately very, very difficult. I think as a company, we don't try to do predictions. Like we don't try to like really orient ourselves around this is going to be the outcome or this is the future scenario that we're going to live in. We try to look at, because we talk in terms of territory, what is a useful territory to occupy? And in that territory, we try to provide some value every single day. Like, how can I help someone today? What's something we can ship today that helps people? And just kind of take it a day at a time. I don't know where things are going to be 6 months down the road. If you asked me where we are today, 6 months ago, I would have not known that. I didn't even think we're going to be in the inference business. I didn't think we're going to be thinking about GPUs. I don't know about any of this. But, you know, here we are. I don't know where we're going to be 6 months down the road. But, yeah, we try to stay grounded and just we have a lot of people that are telling us what we should be doing because they're trying to use our product and they're complaining. So we can just listen to them and fix their issues.
Yeah. I want to talk more about inference, but before I want to go back to what you were saying earlier about AI and access.
Mm-hmm.
Some people make the argument that AI should actually be in the hands of a few, like open weight models, for example, because it's growing increasingly powerful, right? Like they liken it to a weapon now. And I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So if you liken it to a weapon, here's a little PR advice for everyone working in AI. Stop likening it to a weapon. Because every time you do this, okay, think about you as a normal person that's not in tech. And then a bunch of nerds in SF are like, we have a weapon. It's like a nuke. They're going to come to your house and cut your head off. Like, that's what's going to happen. So, like, it's a bad PR move to say we're building nuclear weapons. It's on a scale of nuclear weapons. You attract a lot of negativity. You attract a lot of government scrutiny. Like, it's like it's not a good way to position things. I also don't think it's true. I think AI is going to be really powerful. I think it's going to be really useful. And it's going to impact a lot of parts of the world. I think there's a little bit of wanting to feel like you're working on a Manhattan Project by people in this space. So it's a little overstated, I think. So, yeah, on one hand, I'm like, it is overstated. On the other hand, if it is true, it definitely should not be in the hands of a few. Like I said earlier, it's as much as you want to believe that you have good morality, you have good judgment, you can make the right call in these situations that are difficult. It is very, very hard. The right thing only happens at scale. It's very hard to rely on one person to always be making the right decision for the whole world for decades and decades and decades. You really need chaos and competition and diversity. And again, this is also a very old concept. It's people want stability, and they think stability looks like this. But typically, when you have a really flat stability, it's punctuated by crazy moments of like earth-shattering chaos, and it goes back to stability. That's not what real stability looks like. What real stability looks like is constant chaos like this. That's like always a little uncomfortable, but never like turning into someone dropping your nuke, right? And if you look like, if you do want to make the nuclear weapon comparison, that kind of is what the world looks like post-nuclear weapons. A lot of countries have them. Not all of them we would consider are good actors, but it's so far creating this weird stability in the world that we really haven't seen before, because it's this constant tension that nobody feels happy with, but nobody can actually make the big move. So I think I would definitely encourage people working in this space to kind of look at just these like fundamental dynamics about just like chaos and like what actually provides stability. It's not this rosy thing that you'd imagine. Stability actually really looks pretty messy most of the time.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. It's interesting. Yeah, I like that.
By the way, this is like these aren't my ideas. These are like the most cliche ideas that everyone that's trying to get into reading, these are the first topics they pick up.
Those are my questions for you. I'm like, there you go.
It's like, I want to be intellectual. I'm going to read Nassim Taleb. I'm going to read The Black Swan. I'm going to read Skin in the Game. I did all that 10 years ago. And I went through that whole phase. But, the ideas in it are true. And, these are the things that like he documents these dynamics really well. He goes over historical examples, and I can just kind of see that playing out again.
Yeah. And then it seems like people are talking more and more about open weight models and like the everyone versus a few debate.
Yeah. The open weight model thing is interesting because I feel such like a weird inversion with them. Because right now, China, the country that we would think of as very closed or very repressive or very like top down, they're the only ones really releasing open weight models. And there's like I said, with all this, I don't want to make it about morality. I think the world can be a great place, even with everyone operating selfishly. I think if you structure incentives correctly, or if you structure systems correctly, everyone can be selfish and still do good. That's kind of what's happening with the Chinese open weight models. They're not doing it to be like, here's a gift for the world. They're doing it because they're behind. OpenAI and Anthropic are ahead. And for them to actually even get noticed, they have to do things that are open weight. It's like the only angle of attack, try to commoditize what the American companies are doing. So I'm not like complimenting them on their morality. I'm saying it is weird that a country that we had the perception of being very closed off is doing this open source thing that is allowing for even companies in the US to flourish. It helps us flourish, helps your company flourish. The open source models coming out from China are very important. There's US labs now working on them too, which is great. So yeah, I think it's weird that it's coming from, it feels inverted. It feels weird that the US is so closed off and we're all like depending on China, which it's just like a weird dissonance, I think, for everyone.
It does seem like there's going to be more and more good open weight models coming out of America or like different countries like Mistral and things like that, though.
Yeah, I think the US was a little delayed because, again, this all comes back to, can you convince funding to show up for these things? I think US funding didn't understand the model for the business model for these open source models. I think China doing it anyway, now there's like a thing to point to, like, hey, like, here's how their company works. You can kind of see how it works. And I think the funding for US open source models showed up. Again, nothing like the scale that Anthropic or OpenAI have, but, something's better than nothing. And what's also interesting is, I think there is a world where some great innovation happens because these companies have less money. And we've already seen that with some of the Chinese open source models. Like, they've done really impressive things to train models with less money, less compute. So that pressure is going to be interesting. So yeah, we'll see. Like I said, the incentives are there. It's a very delicate situation right now, but so far they're being produced. And the open source models are great. Like, they work really well. They're very close to the closed source ones. And I think, even if you're a big fan and you're only ever going to use one of the closed source ones, it's totally fine. Like I said, everything, there's definitely space for that. Even if that's the case, you should still kind of want there to be the open source option because it just creates a healthier ecosystem.
Yeah. I was reading that open models used to be something like 18 months behind, and now it's something like 3 months. And so the gap is narrowing. And I'm curious, like, where do you think that's going in the future with this gap between open and closed models?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the feeling that I have too. And it's weird. It feels like years have passed. But I've only been looking at space for less than a year. But when I was first starting looking at space, it felt like there'd be a period of time where Anthropic or OpenAI would drop a model. It would just be totally dominant for 6 months. And the moment the open source models put something close, like a new version would come out and they did a kind of thing to continue to stay ahead. The first couple months of this year, though, have been interesting because a bunch of open source models came out, and then like the US labs had their like drops also like within the same time frame, and they all still seem pretty close. So it feels like that like TikTok thing that's happening is like very, very, very close now. I'm definitely not saying the open source models are better. Mm-hmm. I still very much think Anthropic models and OpenAI's models are the best. But man, is it easy not to use them these days. Like I use open source models all the time, and I don't miss the closed source ones that much. And that wasn't the case until like February.
So OpenCode, you guys kind of made a bet on people switching between models and wanting to freely switch between them. But can you talk about this and why you kind of focused on this?
Yeah, so this was kind of one of the reasons why we thought tooling that was model agnostic could be interesting, because we saw that this is a very competitive space. Anytime Anthropic puts out a model, OpenAI has to respond, and Anthropic has to respond. And there's just going to be this constant battle of who has the best model, or even like models that do better under certain use cases. Of course, all the other models as well. Given this amount of chaos, I was like, I don't want to switch my whole tooling stack every single time I want to try to use another model, which is kind of why we did OpenCode. Because I'm like, everything about it changes. It stays static. The only thing that changes is the model that I'm selecting. So for us, the more competition there is, the more back and forth there is, the better it is for us. Because I think people kind of get sick of using Claude Code one week and developing their workflows around that, then being like, oh, I heard Codex is a lot better, and then you're starting from scratch when you switch over to the Codex tooling. Not everyone cares, but for the people that do, we have that option.
Yeah. So it's some people caring and switching, and then others just kind of like staying on one model in OpenCode.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, not just OpenCode, I think a lot of people just pick their tools and stay put, and that's again totally fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, but for a lot of people, they do want to try the newest thing. It's very easy when a new model drops to boot up OpenCode and just try it. You might not like it, you might go back to another model, but at least you got a chance to try it. The other thing is, I don't use just a single, no matter what the model is, my day-to-day is not just using a single model. I usually flip between two. I use one for most of my tasks and a different one when I'm trying to bet on like longer tasks or more asynchronous work or bigger tasks. I'm going to like kind of background. Different models make sense for different use cases. So that's for me why personally I couldn't just use, a single tool.
That makes sense. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about inference. I think we've kind of talked about it before, but I want to hear your thoughts on choosing an inference provider.
Yeah, I think this is kind of why going into building OpenCode, I didn't think we were going to be doing so much with inference, because in my head I was like, oh yeah, if you want to use Kimmy K, whatever, go pick any inference provider and use it. And the first couple months of OpenCode, we had so many angry issues being like, fuck you, your tool sucks, it doesn't work. And we'd go into it and it would be because they pick some random inference provider that doesn't really serve the model correctly. And to the end user, they don't know that it's the inference provider that's a problem. Because they had the same perception I did. It's just hosting a model. Like, how can there be variability? But there is a lot of variability. So people kept having bad experiences and they would blame us for it. So we're like, okay, I guess we need to do the work of finding good inference providers and just picking them for people and like having a single place where they can just choose a model and we'll make sure it's routed to a good provider. And we've learned a lot about the space. We're not experts in doing inference at all. We rely on our partners to do that. But we've learned a lot in terms of how difficult it is. When a new model comes out, you don't just like download it and like throw it on your hardware. There's a bunch of tuning you can do. There's a bunch of work with the model maker, with NVIDIA to kind of get everything working correctly. There's different optimizations you can make depending on the workload. coding workloads look so different than other kinds of workloads. So there's like dedicated smart people that just spend all their time focused on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, for us, it's just trying to find those people, communicating to them what we care about, giving them feedback on when things don't go right, and kind of co-developing like a quality product.
Yeah. Obviously, like your uptime, inference is so important. How do you choose an inference provider? Like, what's the most important thing when you're looking for one?
Yeah, I think for us, number one thing is that the model is not lobotomized. Like a lot of these, when you go to try some of these weirder inference providers, the model will just be stupid, which is really bizarre. It's a really bizarre experience. It's like the model acts dumb, but it's really because it's not deployed right. So that's obviously number one. Have to be deployed correctly. Two is speed. Speed is like a very interesting thing, especially for coding agents. When you're using a slow model, you kind of get used to it. Then when you use a fast model, it's like feels like a totally different thing. It's like addicting to use fast models. So we really appreciate inference providers that can offer us speed. There's just like an innate like cost and speed trade-off where if you want to make it cheap, you kind of have to make it slower. So you kind of just get delicate balance. And of course, uptime's big, but uptime we're a little bit forgiving on because we'll have multiple providers for every model. And it's a new space. Like it's a new space. Everyone's figuring out how to do inference for the first time. This isn't going to be the level of uptime we expect from like compute, which the cloud compute has been a thing for like decades now. It's way more stable than inference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to read a couple of your inference tweets to you. Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay, so you had one, you said, strongly believe open models will eventually become majority of inference. Doesn't mean proprietary ones disappear, but if I take a step back and think about incentives, they exist.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit what you meant here?
Yeah, so I think there's one perspective where people think most of the market will always want the smartest option and will pay for the smartest option. It's not completely wrong. I think that the rough thinking behind that makes sense, but as the gaps between the smartest option and the second smartest option shrink, and as willingness to spend on AI, like right now, we're in a phase where every company is like, we have to be AI first, like spend whatever you need on AI. We're starting to see people being like, hey, we're spending like $1 million a month on coding agents. This is crazy. Like, we got to optimize this. So at some point, there's going to be some reckoning where, yeah, there's not going to be unlimited budgets for this thing. Maybe the second best model is good enough, given it's 10 times cheaper. Maybe not. And this is also a funny thing. Like, one of our customers, their CTO was telling us, because they're using OpenCode not just with their coding, not just with their engineers, their marketing team is also using it. And they're like, for the things our marketing team is using, the things that our marketing team is doing, they don't need Opus. Like they just keep picking Opus, they're picking ultra high thinking and spending a crap ton of money. They're like, we want to give them like cheaper models that are close to as smart or good enough for them. So I think there's going to be a bunch of spend optimization at one point. I don't think there's just infinite desire of like, we need to have the smartest model at all times or otherwise we're not going to be competitive. I think that's like a false narrative right now. So yeah, I think there's like a lot of incentives to make your cost effective. You always want to do that. So yeah, I think open source is going to be a big part of it. I think it's going to be a long time before it's a majority. And even it being a majority is kind of a bet. But if you look at other markets, the open source, messy, crazy, chaotic part of the world ends up being the majority. I mean, iOS, Android's a perfect example. You know, Apple invented this concept. They're the ones that made it super big. They're iconic. Everybody knows what an iPhone is. Everybody has an iPhone. Yet the majority of the market is Android. It's like very counterintuitive, right? Mm-hmm. So wouldn't be surprising if models went the same way.
Okay.
Yeah.
This question might be too vague, but we have this like huge demand for inference, open models, all these things happening. Then we have this shortage, and I know you're pretty careful about trying to predict the future, but what do you think might happen?
Yeah, I mean, there's some scenarios. So we had one of our investors, he had like this interesting way of framing it, which is demand for tokens is going exponential, but production of the GPU capacity is linear. Like we haven't had like exponential improvements on how fast we can deploy inference. So if you agree with this perspective on things, the only conclusion there is token prices are going to go up because the linear can't keep up with the exponential. Assuming there's like infinite exponential and like the linear, like there's obviously an intersection point. But yeah, so I think there's a world where token prices can go up. But I also think there's a world where there is a temporary thing where this supply demand thing isn't great, but eventually we do end up overbuilding. I think generally it's impossible to underbuild. Or no, sorry, strategically, you never want to underbuild, because if you underbuild, you basically go to zero because you miss out on the thing. So everyone is optimizing for overbuilding. So it's very likely that we'll have a lot more capacity than we need at some point. I don't know when that is. That might take years, but at which point I think we'll see the crisis come down and things being more competitive. But in the short term, I think it's just complete chaos.
And next question. I've been working as a software engineer for a while now. Am I going to be automated?
What does it feel like in San Francisco? What's the vibe?
I think at this point, I've lived in San Francisco for 1 year, and I think I'm just friends with too many people that are very AGI pilled, because I feel quite worried sometimes, and I'm worried I'm too in the bubble of people that are thinking, coding is dead and things like this.
Okay, that makes sense. I think my view, as people that know me know, it's a lot more conservative. We as a team build a coding agent. We try to use our coding agent a lot. And we do use our coding agent a lot, and the results are not very good as a team. Like if we step back and look at it as a team, I'm not even talking about like, oh, the LM did the wrong code. I'm just taking a step back, and it's very, very, very difficult for our team not to just completely fuck up our code base to a point where all this annoying stuff is happening. I think that discipline has always been a big part of software engineering, because when you are tasked with building a feature and you're looking at how can I do this, there is the easy hacky way that feels bad. There is like the absolute correct way, which maybe takes too long. And there's like a bunch of little options in between. And depending on the scenario you're in, you evaluate all those. You understand the business, you understand your goals. You try to like synthesize all that together and make a decision on what you want to do. When you're approaching that from a point of laziness, you kind of always pick the easy hacky version, and you pay for that later. You pay for that 6 months down the road. A code base that is fun to work in, a product that's fun to work on, becomes a miserable product down the road. Even before AI was a thing, we all struggle with this. Nobody was really happy with the code bases they were working in. They started out great, but eventually they sucked. Most teams, there were always a couple people in the team that were like begging the rest of the team to like put that extra mile in, or think a little bit harder, or like it's okay if things take one more day if we can do a little bit more right. They were kind of holding things together from completely collapsing. The interesting thing about coding agents, like the one that I build, is that it encourages, kind of brings out our worst tendencies. That hacky solution isn't right doesn't feel that bad to ship, because you're not the one like putting it in there physically. And there's a psychological effect where, yeah, it's ugly, but I don't have to look at it. Like I just told LM to do it, and LM did this ugly thing, and it's done. All of a sudden it's done. Like the thing I have to do is done. So I think that's really impacting our judgment in a lot of ways. And we as a team, like I said, I'm not trying to like make big predictions about the whole world or give you advice for your company. I think I can just talk about what we as a team we're struggling with, which is how do we continue to be good engineers and build systems that are productive to work in, that are reliable long term, that are fun to work on long term. Coding agents are making that very, very hard. It's a lot harder than it used to be. Even some of the stuff that's novel and like interesting, I think are kind of backfiring. So one thing that we saw recently is we're very excited by the fact that our designer can now ship stuff. Like when because designers just see stuff that's broken that the average engineer doesn't. In the past, they have to go like beg the engineer to go fix it. Now the designer can just go fix it, and your product becomes more and more polished. But they also definitely can't tell when they're shipping in like a bad solution. They can't tell when they're like shipping something in a way that makes the whole system more brittle. So even though we're getting this great capability, we're also now trying to understand, like, is it worth it? Like, because now all this code kind of sneaks in that the engineering team isn't aware of, that then later they discover. So how do we like even work in this way? How do we enable our designer to like contribute in this way while having guardrails to make sure that there isn't rot that's growing over time? It's not a criticism. Like the designer's job is not to understand that stuff. It's the engineering team's job. So yeah, right now we're definitely, coding agents are productive. We enjoy using them, but we are nowhere close to having figured out, here's how we use them effectively, and here's what our jobs need to look like to create the guardrails and do all this stuff. We don't know. We're still figuring that out right now. And to answer your original question, given we're so lost and in there, yeah, we're pretty far from us not having to do anything because we're still we're still struggling with it so much. I think it's really hard to get that level of honesty from people that are excited about these tools because we all feel productive and we're excited about them. It's really hard to admit that, yeah, we maybe overstated it, or like all this productivity we claimed, if we sit down and analyze it, it's like more incremental than, you know, an order of magnitude or whatever. The other thing I'll say is, and I've said this before, we just need to look at output. We focus so much on here's how we build stuff, here's how we're using coding agents. I have 7 Cloud codes going out at once. None of that stuff matters. It's backwards. What matters is there a small team absolutely crushing it? Are they absolutely crushing bigger teams? Do we have a competitor that's like completely killing us? If that's true, then it's worth looking at how they're doing it. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen like a total shift in like power dynamics in this way. There's not a team out there that's like leveraging coding agents way better than us that are just completely crushing us. Like we're still doing okay. So until that starts to happen, it's very unlikely that these tools are actually capable of what people are calling about.
Yeah. I think people just don't want to admit that, right? Because everyone's saying like, look how much more productive I am with these tools. So people are scared to look stupid and say, am I really that much more productive than 34 engineers or whatever? Yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the thing I talk about a lot. It's so rare to find people that really want to be right. I really, really want to be right. Like I care about being right 10 years down the road. If I'm like technically wrong a bunch of ways in the short term, that's fine. I think right now it's hard to find people that like, because to do that, you have to really criticize yourself a lot, because if you really want to be right in the end, you have to like question every assumption you have, question every bias that you have. And in trying to be right in the end, I'm landing on a place that's very critical of LLMs because I don't see the stuff that is claimed to the degree that is claimed. I think the retort I get is, well, that's just going to be better a year from now. Or like, yeah, you said that before and things got better. Of course things get better. But fundamentally, the problems I'm struggling with haven't changed. And so thinking about architecture and system design and like all my skills of being a programmer for the past 10, 15 years are still very much in play. I'm still using them every single day. Yeah, and I have a tough time really imagining. I could definitely be wrong. Maybe there is a massive shift and everything I'm saying goes away. And there are companies operating like that's already true, but so far they're not beating us. So I'll worry when that starts to happen.
Yeah. One thing you said that I want to touch on, this is something that is really concerning to me, that I feel like when I am just writing code and not using AI, I'm thinking about it quite hard.
Yeah.
And then if I'm using an AI tool, it is, you've kind of talked about this before, it's really easy to just give in to the temptation to hit like accept changes or whatever. It's really easy to just outsource your thinking, right? It's like your brain wants to go do that. And I do worry about like the long-term effects of just like, you know, these solutions that aren't the best, but you're kind of putting them in, it feels good. And like, curious your thoughts on what that could happen over time. It sounds like your team's not doing that, but I think many people are right now.
I mean, our team is doing that because it's like a personal struggle, right? I think for myself, I'm like, it's so easy. As I said, it's just so easy to just incrementally every day is get a little bit lazier, and you look back a year and you're just a totally different person how you're operating. And it's so hard because like now when I go and do something manually, it feels something that I like never complained about before now feels like so slow or so tedious. And sometimes you do have to do those things. So yeah, to me, it's such a weird thing because it feels like I'm struggling with an addiction almost. It feels like there's this thing that it's a complex thing. I get a lot of good out of it, but it also harms me in some certain ways. I'm like struggling to figure out my relationship with this thing. It's so weirdly like intimate, and I'm like, it's so weird that programming in my career is looking like this now. Like we all just got hit by this thing.
Yeah.
And we're figuring out what our relationship with it should be.
Yeah. And there's so much fear in the air. You've talked about this, but there's so many people trying to like convince themselves or other people that they're like not going to fall behind in some ways. Like I think you said in an interview that people are just so worried because this big change is here and they feel like they're like racing to keep up all of the time.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it is if you, again, talking about like really introspecting and being honest with yourself, here's like the emotions behind it. The emotions are things are changing. When things change, we all feel like there's gonna be winners and losers. You want to be part of the winners, and it's not maybe obvious how you could, what like meaningful real thing you can do to like win in this shift. So what people end up doing is kind of performatively talking like what they imagine the winners are like. So there's like this whole world where okay, the shift is going to happen. Everyone's like, oh, the winners are probably like using AI super hardcore. They're probably like using it for everything. They're probably running a bunch of them in parallel. They're probably doing all this advanced workflow. So everyone's kind of emulating that because they think that that's what the winners are going to look like. The two things that are wrong with that is one, you don't know that's what the winners are going to look like. And two, like either way, emulating it isn't going to help you get there. So there's a lot of that in the air. I don't blame anyone for it. Like I understand the emotions behind it. It's really hard to not do that. But I mean that's what kind of creates a lot of this noise.
Yeah, that's a good point. You see the people talking about like, I'm great at using this AI tool, and then you're trying to read their articles, kind of copy them, figuring out, not you, but people are doing this. Or I have this urge too, like, oh, look how they're doing this productive thing with AI, like, gotta learn this right now kind of thing. Yeah.
It's funny because I was thinking about this on the way here. I was thinking about Mitchell Hashimoto. He's the founder of HashiCorp. They made like a bunch of really impactful dev tools. A big part of like my earlier career, like using them. Super successful guy. Then now he's working on Ghosty, like in his like pseudo retirement. Another very great polished product. And he talks a lot about how he like he's not like he's obviously an extremely good programmer, extremely competent product person, like just very very talented overall. And he's definitely like, using AI to build all these things now. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, yeah, I still can't compete with him. Like nothing I can do today with AI is going to get me to be better than him because he's just so good at his job, so experienced, so talented. AI is only helping him like get even further away from like the average person. So there's no world where all I have to do is adopt AI harder than him and somehow I'm better than him now. It's not that. Like his fundamental skills are very good. I need to work on my fundamental skills to get them that good. And the AI is like kind of irrelevant to that whole process.
Yeah. I feel like that's a great point. It's like comparative advantage. I saw a Dario interview recently where he talked about, so even if AI is writing 95% of the code, what is that 5% human part? And if you're better at that than anyone else, then you have this like possibly very large comparative advantage to anyone else.
Yeah. And I think the thing that gets lost there is that 5% can be coding. Like, it can be that you're very, very, very good at programming. Even if AI is writing 90% of the code, someone that's a very, very good programmer still is much better than you if they're better than you, right? So it doesn't have to be. I think people kind of, I just see stuff get repeated all the time where I know no one's thinking about it. They're like, it's going to be just like being a manager. It's like, we're all going to be managers now. We're going to be managing agents. I'm like, I was a middle manager for a little bit. It is nothing like that skill set is nothing like managing agents. Like you're not a manager when you're telling an agent what to do. It's like a totally different thing.
I do say that a lot. It's like, you'll be like a manager, and I've never been a manager. So I'm thinking, what does that mean?
Being a manager is all about motivating people and getting people excited to work on stuff and like run through walls every day. That like, you don't need to do that.
You need to motivate your agent.
Yeah. It's like, that's like not a thing. Like you're just like, prompting is nowhere near as hard as being like a manager of real people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think we're going to be managers or we're going to be managing agents. I think my job still feels roughly the same. Like, yeah, the details of what I'm doing every single day or like what I'm typing into a computer are different.
Yeah.
But the painful parts of my job, when I say painful, I mean like where I struggle, where I exert a lot of energy, where like stuff is on my mind, the stuff that I'm thinking about, exact same stuff I was thinking about 10 years ago. So yeah, even if it is this 5% that we're talking about, I don't think we're all going to be like project managers or like human managers, whatever it is.
Yeah. I don't think people are thinking as much about that 5% too. I hear people sometimes, like, I think the rationale behind just hitting accept changes or like not being so in the code anymore or really like not having to learn hard things. Like, I think some people genuinely believe that you don't need to learn hard things anymore because AI is becoming so intelligent. And I feel like that sounds kind of great in some ways because you're like, oh, I don't have to go do this really hard studying. Like, I don't have to keep doing my GPU kernel engineering study group or whatever. But then on the other hand, like if that doesn't come true or like then you're just setting yourself up to not be learning hard things in the future.
Yeah.
Which seems bad.
Yeah, and it's like the fundamental nature of the world hasn't changed. Like from a like microscopic level, nature is about competition. It's about like trying to do stuff a little bit better than people around you. And that is true in society. It is true in like the animal world. It's just always true. So I don't know where this thing of like, oh, we're all just gonna be vacationing all the time comes from. It's just like there's gonna be people that want to do things, and like to like compete with them to like try to do something similar, you're gonna have to be really good. It might look like the details of what that is might look different. But the people that were like exceptional at their time 100 years ago, their day to day look very different than mine. But I bet their mindset and their effort and their energy and their motivations, I bet all that look pretty similar. So I don't think this stuff really changes that much. We're all still gonna have to do hard things. Also have to exert energy. I don't know how you can live a life. That's to me, that's kind of the point of life. Like it's to exert a bunch of energy, you know. Like yeah, otherwise, how do you feel alive or feel like you're living a life worth living? You know, it's a very like sad. Even if it's true, it's a very sad situation.
You've talked in the past about how being a founder is figuring out how to stay motivated every single day. Is that right? Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, like I said earlier, this company's been around for 16 years, so we know a little bit about trying to stay in the game forever. Yeah, it's this crazy thing. I mean, everyone, it's one of those things where when you start a company, you'll go read advice about starting companies, and you'll come across this advice. It's very old advice, so basic, which is just stay alive. Stay alive for as long as you can. If you stay alive for long enough, you get rich all of a sudden. But it's like kind of phrased in that way, or like you're just successful all of a sudden. All I have to do is stay alive, and it sounds so simple. It sounds so stupid. But it is both the simplest thing ever, because we all know what that means, but it's the hardest thing ever because staying alive, staying motivated to continue doing work every single day, when some days it feels like you're doing everything wrong, when you take swings that are like complete misses, it's very difficult. But and the truth of the world is there's like a few people that are both very smart and very lucky, and like they kind of work on something, it's the right timing, it's the right idea, or they're like smart enough to see it, and it's like an instant success. And I think we see a lot of those stories, but the rest of us aren't that smart and aren't that lucky. A way you can compensate for that is by being in the game for super long, because eventually, out of sheer like numbers, like something lines up correctly for you. We've seen so many companies like come into this space over the years, get further than we did, but eventually die, and kind of we still continue to exist. So yeah, it is this weird thing where every company has its own unique trajectory. But for us, it's been this game of how do we stay motivated and excited every single day, and believing that if we're able to do that, there's going to be some kind of outcome eventually.
Yeah. So you talk about taking a lot of different swings,
Yeah.
And staying motivated. But now with the swing with OpenCode, I mean, it's doing so incredibly well. So how does that change the motivation?
Yeah, it's funny because I think our inherent DNA of the company has not changed, because now we're thinking about things like, okay, this is doing well, and we're obviously going to see this out, and we're going to kind of continue down this path. But we really want this to be a forever company. There's very few companies that become forever companies. And what we mean by that is no matter what you get interested in the future, you do it through the same company. So for us, this is going to be the last thing we ever do in DevTools. We've been doing stuff in DevTools, and trying to look for something that can hit the whole DevTools market. We found that thing. Whether or not this is successful or not, whether or not this is like massively successful, kind of successful at a mediocre level, this is our final DevTools things ever. So if you like me in DevTools, like you're not going to see me again after this. Because now we're thinking about, okay, the next thing we do needs to be bigger. You know, we're trying to set up the company so that can we build something that is now for the whole world, not just for developers, not just for programmers. I don't know what that product is going to be. This thing that we're kind of talking about, it might happen 5 years down the road. I don't know, but we're not like going to do this and retire. There's going to be more stuff we're interested in. There's going to be more stuff that pulls our attention. There's something we're going to get excited about one day and not be able to stop thinking about. And we want to structure the company in a way where it makes sense to continue to do that at our current company.
Yeah. Something else you said that I love to hear the story of this is that, so you've had different acquisition offers that you said no to, and you posted one in your company's Slack, like, hey, we're getting software, and everyone ignored it. Your team ignored.
Yeah, I was super proud of our team for this. Obviously, with how crazy AI is, there's like lots of money flying around. There's opportunities to like get a life-changing amount of money. Like it's not, as in a time like this, those offers are kind of showing up. Um, and yeah, I talked to this company, their CEO called me and mentioned like, hey, would you guys be interested in joining us? We'd like to acquire you. And I posted that in our team Discord, and like everyone's ignored me. They just kind of kept talking about work because everyone was so into what we're building, what we're doing, excited by like the amount of users we were getting, all the stuff they wanted to do with them. And yeah, they just didn't care that much. And it's this bizarre thing where when I first became a founder, I was like, man, I would love to get acquired one day. Like that would be like the ultimate outcome, to be able to sell your company and make a bunch of money. That's like why I'm doing this. And it would feel ridiculous to ever be in a position where you don't really care about that. But I think when you've been doing stuff like this for so long, you've just been on the hunt for these opportunities where you can build something for so many people. And when you find it, now you're like, okay, now I get to do the thing that I've been looking for all this time. Selling it at that point, it just feels like the saddest thing ever. Like it feels like all the dreams you had for the past, decade or whatever you were trying to build something. It feels like they all die when you do that. It feels like everything you spent all that time swinging and missing, it feels like all that was pointless. So yeah, it's this very like counterintuitive thing. I'm not saying my feeling of that is infinite. I'm sure if someone wants to overpay to buy our company, like of course I'm gonna take it. I'm not like super unrealistic in that way, but yeah, I think right now it's like this is the thing we've been looking for. So yeah, as a founder, like this is what you're looking for. This is kind of why you play the game. This is not the point where you leave.
Yeah. And so you talked about how now obviously the market is hundreds of millions of developers. It's so big. But you talked about this a little bit earlier, but how do you focus on when there's so many people telling you what they want? There's so many different developers and there's all this speculation on the future of what IDEs will even look like. Like, how do you decide what your users like want when there's so many?
Yeah, I think I always tell people, if you're founding a company, don't try to build a product for somebody else, because only like a very gifted person can do that. It is a lot easier just to build a product for yourself because you are the user, you understand it. People always try to like identify a gap in some industry and try to like build a product for that industry. That sucks. Like it's very hard to do. What's nice is the whole team is programmers. We're building tools for programmers. It's very easy for us to use our own products and understand what we like, what we don't like. And then, so that's like primarily where our motivation comes from in terms of what we prioritize. And of course, we spend a lot of time talking to our users or paying customers, like big companies that are using it. When you do that, these things stop feeling like predictions. They just feel like massive holes that are like screaming at you. So like we're kind of working on a new phase of our product now, and I think when we launch it, and if it goes well, people kind of look at it in hindsight like, whoa, they like saw this crazy thing coming. They like totally like guessed it or predicted it. But it's not really what happened. It's that we talked to a few, like maybe like 3 CTOs that kind of all said roughly the same. They said different specific things, but if you pay attention, they were kind of all 3 saying the same thing, effectively telling us exactly what we needed to do, right? So yeah, that part's really fun. It's kind of teasing out what people actually mean. So yeah, like we try to talk to our users. Like I said, every piece of feedback is useful in that it is a real data point. But understanding the root of the issue is what you need to do. Like no one's going to tell you what the root of the issue is.
That makes sense. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, I want to talk about a couple more things.
Yeah.
We're pretty good on time. Every time a dog barks or something, I'm like, oh no, we'll edit it out. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about Zen.
Mm-hmm.
You had this launch video that was essentially you walking around in your backyard.
Yeah.
And I thought this was great because, first of all, it did very well. But second, most launch videos are these like incredibly overproduced. People are putting thousands of dollars into these things.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about your decision of making your launch video as you walk around your backyard?
Yeah. The thing I like doing. So I am super into marketing now. It's like at the company, marketing is assigned to me. It's like my responsibility. This is so funny for me to say out loud because a couple of years ago, I knew nothing about marketing. I'd be like, what the hell? That's like someone else's job. Like that's not, I'm a programmer. I like build products. But at some point I got interested in marketing just through necessity. Like we needed to get our stuff out there. And it took me a while to wrap my head around it. But the area that I landed is what works for me is as someone that is very online, I am constantly ingesting other companies' marketing. I'm seeing what everyone's doing, and patterns like emerge very quickly. Like trends emerge very, very quickly. One company will do a thing, and all of a sudden, everyone is kind of doing the same thing. It may not seem that obvious to like just someone that's naturally experiencing it, but given that I'm looking at it from that lens, I can immediately tie they're doing that because they're copying this company's copying that company with like this exact twist. So I try to stay on top of all of those, like whatever the meta is, right? And then I try to do the exact opposite. And I'm like, how? Because like if I just do another one of those things, if they spent $10,000 on it and I spent $10,000 on mine, I'm gonna get at best the same outcome as them. Realistically, a worse outcome because they've already done it before. So I try to understand like what the current expectation is and try to like subvert it in some way. And so yeah, there was a period of time where every like tiny launch was like getting this, I mean, this kind of treatment. And it was always for something like really boring, or like just like most basic launch. And it just felt, and there was a time where that felt really cool because it was like nothing in tech was well produced. Then all of a sudden stuff was being well produced and that was awesome. But then everyone was just kind of doing the exact same thing and it felt a little cliche. And I can see the great thing about the something posted online is it's not a mystery on whether or not it succeeded. You can see how many views it got. You can see the likes it got. And you can see the measurement of they probably spent like $50K on this and they got not a great outcome. So, and I was like, I think the interesting for us to do at this point is go the exact opposite and do the most down to earth thing where it's just me talking on the phone and kind of explaining what we're doing and why. Keep it short. Don't be salesy. Just kind of say what our motivation is for doing this and be so like direct. And just do it in my backyard walking around. And yeah, it got like, it did really well. And I spent 30 minutes doing it, literally $0.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not saying every single thing we do is going to be low budget. Like the point isn't copying the thing. It's understanding the sentiment that no one's articulating and kind of doing something for it.
Yeah. And I do feel like you are really authentic on Twitter, which seems really rare these days. Like I feel like everything you're posting is like what you're currently thinking now. Like you kind of talk about how you're thinking about like heuristics for predicting the future. And you're very much like, I don't want to say build in public because I feel like that has become kind of cliche at this point. But you're doing that often. And like, what is your advice for people who like want to start doing that?
Yeah. So it's funny that you say build in public because I think our company is one of the best examples of build in public. It's funny because the phrase is it's kind of lame these days. Because like everything, there's good advice, there's a good idea. The easiest way to implement a good idea is to do it wrong. So if you see someone, build in public is a great idea and it works, but most people do it wrong and they do it in a performative way, or like everyone kind of copy paste something and it kind of becomes like not the right, like it kind of misses the point of the whole thing. But for us, what build in public means is every single day we spend, at least 8 hours a day with our brains on, exerting some amount of energy, trying to like learn something or trying to implement something. All build in public is developing a habit of sharing that at the end of the day, sharing what you worked on, sharing a thought you had or an idea you had or like something you learned or something you were wrong about that you now understand. And just get into a habit of doing that, a couple times a week. It's not the goal. The goal isn't to like directly drive people to your product. It's not like, because I see this a lot where people are like, today while working on link to my product, I did it's like it's you can tell why they're doing it. But for us it's a way to keep ourselves motivated because it's fun to talk about stuff that we built. It attracts people that we like into a world. Like a lot of people we hired or people we've met through doing this. We learn, we post something and people tell us stuff that they know about it. So it's a very valuable thing to do, and it's not something that changes your life overnight, but if you do it consistently over weeks, over years, it's how you can, have a lot of reach and a lot of influence. And that's all we did. We've just been doing this every single week for 5 or 6 years now. And everything we build and have been able to do is on top of it. So yeah, like we very much believe in build in public. We think almost nobody does it because it is a little unnatural. And the other thing that's unique about us is all of our code's open source anyway. So why not talk about it, right? So I think it's a great way to operate. And if you do it right, there's a lot of nice outcomes that you get from it.
It does seem like a lot of founders get it wrong where they're trying to learn in public, but it's like they're shilling their product. Like, here's the link, here's the link.
Yeah,
Like, what else do you think people are doing wrong when they're trying to like build in public?
Yeah, I think it's you don't. I think what people see is they'll kind of. I mean, it's great to have role models. Like if you're first getting into this, identify people that you're like, I would like to be like them one day, or I'd like to be in their position one day. It's good to have that, but you need to understand that you're not going to get there overnight. So copying what they're doing is just going to be superficial. It's going to be stupid. If you do get there, you're going to have your own unique journey of getting there. And it's not going to be something that anyone could prescribe to you. It's not going to be an instruction set someone else gave. Understand the outcome you want, but yeah, you have to discover your own pathway to it. The only thing that I can say is talk about interesting stuff that you've done or learned every single week, like genuinely interesting. Don't try to force it through any kind of lens of your product or like some other goal you have. I think like this is another thing that I think people get a little bit too fixated on, the whole productivity mindset of being like, I'm a founder, I'm working on a product, I need to grind on the product every single day. Like I need to like go directly at what I'm building, and every minute not spent on that is wasted. I don't believe in that. I think you need to meander. I think you need to like have like a weird schedule, or one day you like do something really, really odd. I think these things are just good for creativity. And I think it's very easy to get caught up in this. I need to spend every minute as efficiently as possible. Another way to phrase that is you're spending every minute as boring as possible. And that doesn't lead to anything good or interesting that other people want to hear about. So yeah, just do interesting things and you'll have interesting stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I love that. That is definitely not a San Francisco take, I think, where everyone's like, how can I be as efficient as possible at every moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. A lot of these things are like, I'm just kind of rephrasing, I would argue, like cliche advice. Because this is the thing that I've like just learned over and over in my career. It's all the stuff that's ultimately the best advice. It's not hidden. It's like stuff that is been said a million times. Yeah. It's very, very simple, but it's so hard to actually live by. And the reason I say that is there's always this thing that goes around where it's like, oh, the daily routines of successful people. And a lot of them have these weird meandering day-to-day, like historical figures that are like the greatest like people that have lived.
Yeah.
They weren't like, like snorting modafinil every single day. They had just like these weird, odd, quirky routines. And I think we kind of learn from that, because I think if you're doing any creative work, being a founder is creative work. It's all about creativity. You can't have this like rigid lifestyle.
Yeah, that makes sense. Love it. What was I going to say? That I was going to talk about how you were talking about how advice, like a lot of this advice is not hidden. But I do think right now, because founders and software engineers, and there is this like palpable fear in the air because of AI. So it feels like people are listening to advice even more than they normally would, right? Mm-hmm. Like people want to be comforted right now. People want to like listen to a podcast and think, okay, like this is going to be my strategy for being okay.
Yeah. I think the issue, I totally understand that pull. I do some form of that in my life as well. But this kind of goes back to what I was saying is, do you want to be right now, or do you want to be right in the end? In this case, being right means feeling good. Like, do you want to feel good right now, or do you want to actually feel good at the end of all of this? If you're a founder, some aspect of what you're doing is making an asymmetric bet. Like, it's a bet where you're probably wrong, but if you're right, the upside is like massive. It's like huge. It's like a 100x difference than being wrong. The downside of being wrong. You're not going to find this in a podcast. Like, this isn't going to be information that is advice that's like, I think like first principles are out there, like basic things, a way to like operate are out there. But in terms of what you're actually doing day to day, what you're working on, what you're trying to take a swing at, like I'm not gonna tell you, I'm not gonna be able to tell you like something that changed your life in that way. You got to find your own unique asymmetric thing that everyone else is ignoring, or even like explicitly thinks is wrong. If you look at our company, we have a very conservative view on AI and coding. Every other coding company, or like any AI company doing anything in coding, has a very like futurist, accelerationist view of things, and we have a very conservative view. It's possible we're wrong, but on the off chance that we're right, we're going to seem like the very reasonable company that kind of positioned everything correctly, right? So that's our asymmetric kind of one of our asymmetric positioning. Is very counter to what most of the industries, how the most of the industry is operating. You have to find something like that for yourself, and it's not easy. This is a show up overnight, but it's kind of what I was saying. Be weird, do weird things, like have a weird day. These things will kind of show up.
Yeah. Love it. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it was fun.
Chatting.
Thanks for coming to my house.